All right, welcome back to Chart Request Live. My name is Patrick Dunawilla. I'm the editor of the Chart Report. My usual co-host is out today, but we got a special guest co-host, Alfonso de Pablos. Alfonso, how are you?
Hey guys, I'm very happy to be in the show today.
Yeah, so Alfonso does a lot of the behind the scenes work for us. He's an excellent chartist, so very excited to have you on with us today.
Yeah, I'm very excited. Let's see what people in the chat is looking at. Some stocks, some indexes.
Yeah, so
So
usually we start with kind of just an overview of the markets, and here we
yeah,
are
makes sense.
bouncing for the second day in a row, kind of flat. But what do you think, Alfonso? Any particular areas have your eye? I know financials have been a really hot one.
Yeah, definitely financials in the past 10 days, in the last week, has got my attention. A lot of relative strength over there. Product of the recent rotation we have seen, not only in some value-oriented areas, but in small caps, especially. Small caps
Yeah.
finally started to participate higher to break out of that big basis. So I think that's the tape right now.
Yeah. I'm watching regional banks pretty closely here. If
Yeah,
you look,
big
we're
level.
we're testing that gap where it all started, where the banking crisis really started to accelerate. So here we are kind of back at the scene of the crime. You see this acted as support all throughout the bear market in 2022 until that banking crisis. So this is a pretty important level for regional banks. And regional banks are one of the largest areas of the Russell. So um, in a lot of ways, the fate of the Russell kind of hinges on what happens here, but we'll see.
Yeah, makes total sense. Banks are starting to participate. It makes sense to see small caps to participate. The Russell 2000. This is a big area of former support. Now it will become resistance. So let's see how price behaves at this key interest level.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, for the first test, it's piercing through there pretty good. So, so far so good.
It's going, and not only the banks, the regional banks, but also biotechs has been
Yeah,
outperforming, are breaking out. So that means broad participation within a small caps for sure. So
yeah,
if this breakouts and this move sticks, I expect the Russell 2000 going much higher.
yeah. It's really been regional banks and biotech. Those are probably the two problem areas within the Russell 2000. But let's get right into it. Let's get to the mailbag first, as always. We
Yeah,
always
perfect.
give priority to those tickers that come into us through email. So if you want us to look at it first next time, just shoot over your ticker request to questions@stockmarketmedia.com, and Steve and I will get to him, or we'll give him priority on Thursday. But let's get right into the mailbag, shall we?
Yeah, perfect. So we have the first request was from Jeff. He wants to take a look at JMIA.
Yeah, so this has been
It's
a
one
hot
of,
one this week. A lot.
yeah, that's the Amazons of, I think, South Africa, that
Okay.
has been working so well in the past few weeks.
So it's one
Nice
of
reverse.
those Amazons of, right?
Yep.
So you can see I already have the chart marked up here. This is one that we look at almost every week lately. But this is the breakout we're talking about. Really nice base breakout. The whole reversal is shaping up nicely. First you had the trend line break, you retested it. We built this nice rounded bottom here. You got the breakout. So now I think you're looking for 28 for an upside target. It's kind of tricky out, it's tough to get in here by this if you're just getting to it. At this point, I'd probably wait for a bigger pullback towards this $10 level.
Yeah,
Uh,
that will make sense.
yeah, I mean, if that would be a really nice retest if it did go back to that 10.
But
But
also, if you go back to the weekly chart, that's the perfect example of a trend reversal. The first
yeah,
time it broke trend line, then base a little bit more, and then broke out of a massive base above what, like 10. I think
yeah,
the of this resistance is higher. That's a nice base breakout on a weekly basis. So I think we're heading towards 28 at least.
yeah. And that's a significant move. I mean, that's a double from here, more than that. So um, again, I wouldn't be getting in right here, be waiting for a pullback. But if you're able to get in at 10 and it doesn't go much lower than that, that's a really nice trade up to 28
Yeah,
there.
yeah, I agree. Also notice the momentum,
Oh
how
yeah.
it shifted from oversold conditions printed for about a year, a bullish momentum divergence, and now with this base breakout, it's getting overbought, confirming the positive momentum and the base breakout. So
Yeah.
I really like this name.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. So this is a solid one. Should we move
Yeah,
on?
like yeah, let's do it. So the next one is Royal Caribbean, RCL.
RCL. You ever been on a cruise, Alfonso?
I have been in a cruise. I don't know if it was Yeah, I think it was Royal Caribbean
Was it?
in 2010, like 14 years ago.
Okay.
It was amazing. So I really like cruise.
So
How,
looks like
how
we
are you?
broke out in around April, and here we are just moving nicely higher here. This is a pretty big base here. Was really started stalling before COVID even. So dating back to like 2017, 2018. So really nice, what is that, 6 year base, something like that. And if we fib it out, we'll get our next target. Around 205 looks like would be a
Yeah,
good logical target. Now, if you're just getting in here, kind of same as last time, it's a little extended. You're about halfway to the target, so it's kind of tricky. At this point, you probably want to wait for a retest if you aren't already in it. But if you are already in it, look at 205 or 206 even as your target. To the downside, I would not let this get under 125. I think that would be a failed breakout, and it would just be really ugly if it goes back into
yeah,
or
I
falls back
agree with you.
to those pre-COVID highs there. So, but
Yeah, what I like about RCL is that the risk in that moment was very well defined at 134, 135,
excellent
and
point. Yeah.
this is the perfect example of a nice base breakout. Even like no retest, just going up. That's the perfect trade for investors.
Yeah, and a lot of the strongest breakouts won't give you that chance to get back in on the retest. You know, a lot of best breakouts won't retest. It's almost like once the train leaves the station, if it comes back, there's probably something wrong with the train, right?
That's an excellent point. Well said. Yep.
So, yeah, with this one, like it above 135, would not like it below 125, and 206 looks like the target. What do we got
Yep.
next?
So Hanson asked us about LNTH.
Yeah, so this one has been a tricky one. This one showed up on our radar and it was looking like a short for a while. Looked like a textbook head and shoulders pattern, but man, am I glad I didn't actually act on that because this thing just absolutely surged. And what do we know about failed tops, Alfonso?
They, they never complete, and they tend to fail. And when
Well,
they fail,
yeah, go ahead.
price tends to rip higher
Yeah, yeah, you tend to.
with authority, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of the same concept or the same psychology behind a failed breakdown or failed breakout, right?
Mhm.
When you have a pattern, a lot of times we'll talk about head and shoulders patterns and things like that, and people think, oh, okay, so it's a top. It's gonna top. This is bearish, all that. Whereas I think most technicians will look at this and say, okay, that is a topping pattern. Now, if it doesn't behave like a top, then that's extremely bullish. So I think a lot of people would see a top fail and be like, oh, technical analysis is bullshit, right? but
Right.
they're really not interpreting it correctly. So with this one, this top failed when we didn't break the neckline here. Bears had their chance, it couldn't break down, and instead the neckline acted as support, and you got this really, really nice move higher. I mean, that's a double, I think. Yeah,
And we
100.
have seen this same pattern repeat in most of stocks this year.
Totally.
DHI is a great example. I think Strasse made a good point last week in the morning show. Last year was the year of reversal basis, right? And this year is the year of failed top patterns.
Yeah,
Everyone was expecting this pattern to complete, but at the end they failed.
yeah,
So now we're making new highs. Participation continue to expand. And one thing that I like about LNTH is, again, look at momentum. I think never got oversold conditions during this.
during the top.
Yeah, at least at the end.
Yeah.
If you put a weekly time frame,
Even daily, like when it was testing the neckline here, it never really got quite oversold. So to your point, I mean, it did hang in there pretty good, and that was kind of a tell that it wasn't going to break down.
yeah.
But so this one, I like it. I mean, I think if you're not in it now, I would wait for a retest of the former all-time highs around 101. And that you could just fit out here. Doesn't give you a ton of upside here. I mean, if you got in at 101, 132, that's enough upside.
Yeah, and another way, if you want to measure a potential target, it's to measure the site of that base.
Yeah, I was thinking that. So, I mean, roughly 50 to 100. So we'll call it 50.
Yeah, like 150, around
Yeah,
150,
you
maybe.
could
Yeah,
absolutely use that too.
yeah,
But with this one, as far as the downside, I would not let it get below this gap. I think that gives you a really nice natural out point. Even, I mean, you could even use this if you wanted to. You could, if you once you were in the position, you could use this candle right here as kind of your out point.
yeah. I like it. I like it.
But the point is, I mean, these tops when they when they're not tops, when they're not actually tops, you can get some really, really strong moves in the opposite direction, right? And I think the best example, you mentioned home builders, great example of it. Software, another top that wasn't actually a top. But I think the best example we've had in the last year is probably NVIDIA. I don't know if you
Definitely.
remember, but back in October, we had this little head and shoulders forming here. And everybody was talking about this head and shoulders in NVIDIA. And of course, it didn't actually break down. I think this candle right here, if you zoom all the way in, this one did like pierce through the neckline. And then by the end of the day, it reclaimed it. But that day, I remember everyone was talking about the head and shoulders in NVIDIA and how it was breaking and how this was the top in NVIDIA. And then over the next 6 months, it doubled again. So
Yeah.
those non-tops are extremely bullish patterns, and being able to identify them is really, really important.
Yeah, for sure. Another good example was Caterpillar more recently.
Oh yeah, great point.
Even though it's retracing some of the recent gains, it never completed that topping pattern in the short term. So it speaks about this pattern not completing to the downside, but resulting higher.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. What do we got next?
So next we have BGC.
And are you keeping an eye on the chat?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, BGC. What is this thing?
You'll have to zoom out a lot.
It's a bank. Let's go all the way out here.
Yeah, 4 billion financial stock.
Is it American or?
Let me check. Yeah, yeah. Even if you zoom out to like 24 years,
Oh boy.
you will notice like a massive, yeah, exactly, like a massive rounding bottom formation. I like how you're making this chart. I like the pivot height from December 2017
Yeah,
uh, as the line in the sand around
yeah.
11.
And then
But the
you play
center
it back to
of
these 2003 highs. Yeah, that's
yeah,
around 17. So if it breaks this $10 level, or really 11, you could call it 1050. You
yeah, 1050 is
break out
okay.
above 1050, ride it up to 17 or 1750. I think you could make a good trade out of that for sure.
Yeah, for sure. But it's like a monster like bottom formation. Structural trend reversal is underway in this name, in my opinion. A confirmation will be we will get a confirmation if and when we get above 1050 or 11. I really like it.
Yeah. I think I would wait for 11 on this one because that is kind of the highs there. And also you just want to be with a really long-term base like this. A lot of the times on a long-term base, it won't just do a clean breakout. You'll either have this kind of false move and then it'll go and build a handle, or it's kind of rare to see where you just have this long-term base and it just rips right through. So
Yeah,
I
that's a
think
good point.
you definitely want to wait for 11 on this one and get that confirmation. But
That's a good point.
definitely,
And I also like the relative trend. This one,
yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, great. This is the perfect area to be in right now. Financials have been a leader.
I like it. Yep.
What do we got?
In the chat, Mark was asking us about VERX, like a base breakout above 39.
Oh wow, very nice one,
That's a
Mark.
great chart. Beautiful
Beautiful.
chart.
Yeah. Are we all? Is that it for the mailbag?
No, from the chat. From the chat.
But are we done with the mailbag?
Yeah.
Cool, cool. We always like getting to the chat. This is the more fun, interactive part.
That it was.
Alfonso, I got to tell you, our viewers, they bring some very, very nice setups here. I'm always
Yeah,
very.
I'm noticed that. Nice job, Mark. This is a very good stock. Interesting that it's software. I think it has been displaying a lot of relative strength lately. So
Yeah,
I really like it.
I always like when you have a base that's breaking out for the first time, since the
Yeah, I
IPO.
love those
Yeah,
kind of setup.
those are some of the nicest bases, and this is one of them. Uber was like that, or Sprouts Farmers Market. You remember that one?
Yeah.
SFA.
Yeah.
That was a beautiful one. But this is what we're talking about, where you eclipse the IPO highs coming out of a base like that, kind of like an IPO base, is I guess for lack of a better term.
Yeah, beautiful.
So
And what I like about these kind of setups is that the risk is very well defined. So you will notice very fast if you're wrong. You will notice very, very fast.
yes, yeah, that's an excellent point. Yeah, and that means that there's kind of less opportunity cost because we'll know very quickly if we're wrong. We don't have to sit in the trade for
Exactly.
3 months. Um,
Exactly.
but this one looks good over 39 or 40, depending on how conservative you want to be. If you want to be a little bit more aggressive, buy here around 39. But either way, it looks like it's headed to 58 here, which is that first Fibonacci target. Really like this one. I wonder what short interest is like on it.
I will let you know right now. The short interest is 8%, around 8%. Yep.
So it's not. I wouldn't call that a catalyst, but it's nice to have, considering this thing's at all-time highs, and you have 8% of the float short. I mean, if anything, that's I definitely wouldn't want to be short this name right now, or if I was, I'd be feeling pretty uncomfortable. So
Yeah, I agree with you.
that's just kind of like a bonus to the trade, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. That's a good point. So James was asking us about pH. Let's
PH,
take a look at that.
that Parker Hannifin. Yeah. So looks like we might have looked at this one recently here because I have it all marked up. Another one that's just one of those classic non-tops, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I really like what you mentioned there about what Steve said about how this is kind of the year for the non-tops because we're seeing them just all over in so many different areas. This is just another one. So here, this topping pattern has been completely invalidated, and it's setting up really nicely here. This is a daily chart, but I would buy this breakout here. It's above that VWAP, so if you wanted to get in early, that would have been. I think you could totally jump in here, but confirmation would come from breaking 570 here,
I
and
like,
yeah, it's a really nice move.
I like the way you explained this one. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
I really like it. Yep.
So, ironically, the 161.8 comes in at 60 is 618. So that would be my target for this one, especially if it goes above 570. But I think you can get in a little early here. Now I also want to fib out if let's see if it had a bigger base. Okay, yeah. I want to see what happened here. Okay, yeah. So a lot of the times when you do have these topping patterns, they'll be happening at an important fib here. And this one, you can see that happening. It hit the 161, or I'm sorry, the 261.8.
Mhm.
And just kind of, that's when it really started to roll over here. And it also stalled here at the 161.8. So here we are. We established that this isn't a top, and you could use this 618 for your next target. Or if you want to be more aggressive, you use the longer term fib. That comes in around 695.
I
If
like
you
it.
want. And you have two fibs there lining up. I don't know if you see that. You have
Oh
the
yeah, yeah.
fib from this, and then you have the fib from the bigger base, all
I'm
lining up
bigger.
at 695.
Yep.
So that might be a better target there, actually, more realistic target if
Yeah,
you're
I like
willing to
it.
be more aggressive.
I like it. I like it. I really like it.
Okay, so
So we were asked about TTEK. Let's take a look about that one.
TTEK. All right. Ooh, looks like I already have it drawn up here. Nice ascending triangle breakout. I really like ascending triangles. If you think
Perfect.
about the psychology behind the pattern, an ascending triangle's horizontal resistance, and then you have diagonal support, a rising trend line is support. And what that's saying is every time it gets rejected at horizontal resistance, the bulls are getting incrementally more bullish, right? They're not letting it go down as much. It's making higher lows there. So that's what creates that ascending triangle pattern. Um, you got the breakout already. It's kind of, I wouldn't even call this a retest. I'd call this like more of like a flag.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's consolidating barely above the breakout level. If you drop a VWAP from the all-time highs, price is right there. It's trying to reclaim um, um, that level of interest. So I really like this one. And again, I'm looking at the momentum in the past year. It never get oversold. So that's bullish argument about this company.
yeah, that's a great point. It hasn't been oversold in quite some time. Um, since last year. It's been at least a year. This, it could continue probably correcting down here, but as you said, it looks like it's really trying to resolve higher here out of this flag because it's above this VWAP here from the peak. And you could either jump it here and put your stop right below the VWAP. You could put it right below this pivot low here, or if you want to give it a lot of room, you put it at the bottom of the breakout level here around 183.
Yeah,
But
I like it.
this one looks like it's heading back to or heading up to 238 or 239.
That's a
Uh,
38.
yeah,
Over longer time frame, I think 310.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what's 310?
It's the next extension.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
for
Mine's
310.
around 313, but more or less
Yeah,
this.
yeah, it's the same area, but
Yeah.
for sure.
But I mean, what a strong primary uptrend. When you think about what's going on over here in the context of this strong uptrend, those two price targets we just mentioned, that seems totally achievable, right?
I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
very strong one. What is this energy? Wait, what is this? Engineering and construction.
Hmm.
Got it. Yeah. A lot of those industrials have been firming up again, right?
Yep, for sure. A lot of base breakout, a lot of failed tops in the space. So makes sense to see these kind of stocks participating. So another one is ticker symbol is S.
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 So Sentinel, what is this? This is a software stock, right?
It is a 7 billion software company.
So, yeah, this one showed up on the buzz this week, and I had never heard of the stock. Are you familiar with this one?
No, no, first time I see this one, but I kind of
Um,
like it.
so I'm going to start from scratch here. Just redraw that fib. Yeah, it's a little messy. It's kind of hard to find it. Well,
It looks very similar to Robinhood. Remember when Robinhood came public in 2021? It ripped higher for the next in the first 2 weeks, and then raised a lot. It's very similar kind of action there. Post IPO, price has been digesting some of the like destruction of this decline. Sorry, it's carving out a nice bearish to bullish reversal pattern. I like it above 30.
yeah, I
I
was
like
going to
it
say
above
30.
30.
30 looks like the level, right?
Yeah, I like it. The pivot highs from February this year and the highs from the summer of 2022. But also, I like from this one. I don't know if you want to be like more aggressive. You want to be like more aggressive. You can uh, draw a V web from the all-time highs. Prices just reclaiming this area. Um,
Wow. Yeah, nice. We
yeah.
gapped above it. We gapped and
Yep.
we followed through throughout the week, right?
But me personally, I like it above 30. I think if and when
Agreed.
we get above 30, a trend reversal will be complete and the path of this resistance will be higher in this name.
Agreed. Yeah, I think 30 gets you 40 as your first target, and then 40 gets you 50, 51, 52
Yeah.
even. But I would definitely wait for 30 on this one. I think, this VWAP break today, that's awesome. That's a step in the right direction. That should tell you to keep it front and center on your watch list. But I think you really want to see 30 first. As Alfonso said, there's the highs from earlier this year and from summer 2022 when we had that bear market rally. So this is a pretty important level, this 30 level. And here we are, we're gunning for it now. Looks like that level's acting like a magnet. So even if we get rejected there, I think we'll at least test it in the next few weeks.
Yeah. I like it. And I agree with you.
So what do we got?
So the next is ZETA. Let's take a look.
ZETA. Oh, so we already have this one drawn up. So you got the breakout in May, and here we are in the last week. We reached the target right around 1925. So this one's been really clean, but it did not waste any time there. It's just going right to the next one, which is
Mhm.
2860 around there. But wow, what a strong name. I don't even know what they do. Package software, okay.
And if you put a daily chart, you will notice that that base breakout from that base it came with a breakaway gap.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah. So for those
Never
of you
got
who know, a breakaway gap is when price gaps above or below an important support or resistance level. So in this case, on the breakout, you got a very decisive breakout. And breakaway gaps, the reason we look for them is because they're the most bullish type of breakout. I mean, if you think about it, what other bullish way could you have of a breakout other than gapping above? I mean, that's a very decisive message coming from price there. So yeah, that's a great point. This move started as a breakaway gap, and here you are just ripping right through this fib onto the next one to 28. So as long as it's above 19, I would say 28 is the next stop.
Yep, I agree. Perfect.
Looks good. Looks
Nice
very
consolidation within an ongoing uptrend, resulting higher new all-time highs.
And this is one of
That's
those IPO
really
bases that we were kind of talking about, right?
exactly. Yeah, you're right.
Look at momentum down here. This is insane.
Now let's take a look at RTX.
RTX. A lot of these defense plays just haven't really been able to get going. I mean, I've been dealing with their pre-COVID highs for years, and here we finally broke them, but we're really not going anywhere. I mean, in terms of a relative basis, the aerospace and defense has been a really tough group these last few years, right?
Yeah, at least RTX, right? It tried to break out I think in February 2022. It failed. Price has been consolidating above and below the former highs from 2020. So I think now the next line in the sand for me, it's around 105. That represents the April 2022 highs, the January 2023 highs. So I think that's the line in the sand for me. The space, at least the ETF is looking good. Let's take a look at today's candle, 3% up. The ETF ITA.
You're looking at ITA?
Yeah.
Yeah, with this one. So, I mean, even though this breakout failed here in June, you didn't really get a nasty, sharp reaction lower. You got, just kind of this like scoop and score action. It's trying to reclaim it now. If it does reclaim this 105, 106, call it 106 level, then I think you're looking towards 126 or even up to 130 for your next target here. And that's I just fibbed out the COVID decline and this little base here that we've had.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Yep. I really like it. RTX represents almost 15% of the ITA ETF.
Oh, you said almost 50%? So
15.
15. Oh.
Yeah.
But that's significant for a single hold.
Yeah, the largest weighting of that ETF is General Electric, GE. It represents almost 19%. It's breaking out to
GE is the largest in the aerospace and defense?
Yep.
Really?
Yep. That's what I'm seeing right here.
Yeah, and man, what a nice move from GE this week, huh?
I really like GE. Zoom out a little bit. It has been consolidating like for the past 2-3 weeks above shelf former highs. Nice base. If you go back to exactly to the daily chart, you will see price consolidating in a tight range. Volatility is at its lowest levels in a while. Now it's breaking out.
Finally getting that resolution today. Right?
Exactly. So yeah. I really like that one too.
Yeah. In a lot of ways, I think you could kind of call this one a breakaway gap. We talked about what a breakaway gap is earlier, why they're so bullish. In a way, I would call this resistance, and here we gapped above it here, and we're following through nicely throughout the day. So really nice move from GE too. Yeah.
So now let's take a look. Nicholas was asking us about Starbucks. Let's say that chart.
So we actually were short Starbucks for a little bit. and I'll tell you why. So if you look at the long-term trend, I mean, this thing's just broken pretty much every long-term trend line out there, no matter how you draw it. And it's just the same thing. You'll have a breakout or breakdown, then it'll retest, get rejected. So this one, and you had this, you had several different topping patterns in here. You had this, and then within these head and shoulders, you had smaller head and shoulders. I'm not going to draw them, but you can kind of see them in here. So, I mean, this thing just formed bearish pattern after bearish pattern, broke trend line after trend line. So this has been a real relatively weak stock. So I've been staying away from this one if I'm not short. But if you really want to buy this one, I think you are doing so on the basis that this isn't a top, right?
Yeah, I like that way. Yeah.
And so if this isn't a top, I think that's tricky. I think for an entry, I'd want to see it clear the VWAP from the peak. So I'd have to wait for 93, but by the time it gets there, it'll probably be lower. And then once I got that VWAP break, then I'd be looking back towards all-time highs around 126 here. But
Yeah,
really,
it's kind of messy right now.
yeah, it's a little bit messy. I think if you go under 70, that's confirmation that this is a top, and you definitely don't want to be long. But yeah, it's hard for me to love this one just because of how weak it's been on a relative basis. You know, here we are in this raging bull market, and this thing's making multi-year lows.
Yeah,
So
there are other vehicles
yeah,
stronger than this one for sure.
yeah. What else we
How
got?
about you? If we take a look at Amazon, this is I think the last stock asked it in the chat. So let's take a look at Amazon.
Yeah, beautiful move today. Kind of fizzled out a little bit here. Well, I guess the day's not over, but so yeah, you got the breakout, clean breakout. I love this little candle here, this abandoned baby pattern. That's what we call them. You know, you had the gap lower just for a day, and then a gap back higher the next day. So you could also call that a bullish island reversal. Whatever the point is, it's bullish. So you got the breakout here. This is just a classic retest here. I don't think we're going to break down. It does not look like the bulls are going to let this thing break down. It's had so many chances to do so. At this point, I think this is a great entry for a longer term position. You know, how many people wish they were long Amazon? You know, this is your perfect time to get in, I think, on the next leg higher for this one. And I just think it's so interesting that here, you know, what is this, the third largest stock, I think, or fourth? It's one of those that everybody wants to own, but it's made no progress in the last 4 years. So pretty much the entire pandemic, or since the pandemic, it hasn't made any progress. And I think it's time to start making up for lost time. I think 250 would be a conservative target here. I think probably higher than probably.
I really like it.
But yeah, this one, I think this is a no-brainer here.
This is a base, a really good looking base. Nice risk reward here. Risk is very well defined at this pivot highs. And what I like from this one is that its peers, call it Google, Apple, Microsoft, even Nvidia, they already broke out from similar bases to new all-time highs. They already reclaimed their prior cycle highs. So why Amazon can do it in the next couple of months?
Yeah, absolutely. And what Alfonso was talking about is like Amazon's basically like where Nvidia was last May when it broke out of its base here to all-time highs. We're not saying that Amazon's going to resolve the same way and it's going to have the same upside that Nvidia had, but in terms of its structure, kind of at a similar spot. We've seen pretty much all the other mega caps come out of their base and move nicely higher. So why not Amazon, right? But yeah, this one, I really like this name here. Or this, yeah, this
Yeah, I really like it.
What do you think? Any more?
How about copper? Someone there in the chat is asking about copper. What do you
Yeah.
think about copper?
So copper is ugly right now. Let me just remove all this.
It's a good example of a massive failed breakout from failed move become fast move in the opposite direction, right?
Yep.
It need more time to digest and absorb that overhead supply and make a decisive breakout above that level.
Yeah, and this is what he's talking about. And that was an important level. We cleared $5 all-time high, and then we couldn't hold it. Here we are resolving lower. I would have thought that this would have offered you some support here, but we're slicing right through it. So it's ugly. I think I wouldn't want to be long copper right now, or even some of the other like FTX.
It's back in the range, right?
Yeah, FCX. It's just really hard to do anything with it until it reclaims that 52 level here.
Yeah, I agree with you. FCX right now, it's like the example of a topping pattern completing.
Yeah.
It's the exact opposite as Caterpillar or the other ones we just saw.
Yeah. Yeah, so copper, I mean, I just don't see it turning around anytime in the next few weeks. I think it probably has more downside. If it reclaims this 530 level, great. Then you're looking at a move back to $5 you're looking for. But it's just a mess. And it has been a mess for quite some time.
Yeah, it is a no touch for me, as long as prices in that range.
Yeah, it looked good for about a month. All of a sudden the chart shaped up and it broke out to all-time highs in like a matter of a few weeks. But just like a week later, it just completely failed and looked like crap again. So copper's just been a real heartbreaker.
Yeah, that's right. Now let's take a look and let's finish with Bitcoin. Let's see.
Bitcoin, great one to finish up on. Oh man, what is there to say about Bitcoin that hasn't already been said? Yeah. Bullish. I mean, I don't think you want to get too cute with second guessing this thing and trading in and out of it. I mean, yeah, the last 3-4 months were pretty sketchy, but uptrend's intact, and this thing really looks like it's going to 6 figures by the end of the year, probably. I think it's really nice to see it above this 65 level again. That's the former cycle highs. I think that's really important that we reclaimed them. I think the fact that we broke down and then reclaimed it, that's a kind of decisive behavior. That's showing like, okay, this is for real this time. We had the chance to break down. We didn't. So I think now you're going to see a resolution higher. I know it's pulling back a little bit this week, but I think this ultimately resolves higher. Like I said, I think we're at 6 figures by the end of the year.
Yeah, I like it. Me personally, I like it above 72, 73. I would like to have like more conviction in this trade. I know you can play, you can trade the range, you can draw some VWAPs from the all-time highs and manage risk on those VWAPs. But I personally, I like it. I like a decisive breakout from this multi-year base for sure.
Yeah.
I try to keep it simple with crypto and Bitcoin. I try to keep it simple.
Yeah, that's usually the way to go. But as we know, simple is not always easy. It can be difficult to keep it simple.
Yeah, it has been difficult, especially because sideways trend sometimes you can get very frustrated,
Yeah.
and you try to anticipate some moves. So just be patient, wait for your pitch, and I think that's it.
Yeah, so I think, this whole consolidation. So Bitcoin broke out to all-time highs in like March or so, and then we just went into this nasty time correction, right? This sideways mess. And I think this has been really, really beneficial for sentiment because when we first broke out to all-time highs, I mean, you probably saw it too, Alfonso. Just everyone posting that chart of Bitcoin, and it was immediately just going to go to 100,000, and everything was going to be fine. And it just seemed too easy. It seemed like everyone was just like, okay, Bitcoin broke out, therefore we're going to 150K, whatever. And I think these last 3, 4 months here have been really beneficial in that it's kind of reset sentiment. All those weak hands that piled in on the breakout in March, they really got tested here. Their patience really got tested here these last 3, 4 months. So I think that is actually very constructive as
That's an
much as it
excellent.
sucks to be, like long and sitting through that whole thing, I think you could look at it as beneficial. It's kind of like the longer the base, the higher in space kind of same concept there.
That's an
But
excellent
what do you think of
point.
this, Alfonso? Do you think it's more bullish that we actually pierced through this level? Because I feel like with Bitcoin, some of the best moves start as failed moves. And you had this failed breakdown here, and we've already seen a nice move so far. But a lot of the times, you'll see this last move before you'll finally break out of a range. Like one example that comes to mind is UNH here. Um,
Exactly.
you had it just punch through real quick, and here that was the move that finally got us out of that really long 2-year range here. So basically, what I'm trying to say is it took a failed breakdown to finally get it out of this 2-year range. So
And,
back to
and even
Bitcoin,
yeah,
you know,
back to it.
th-
Even
is
if
this
you
failed
zoom,
move going to get us to the through the range kind of thing?
yeah, even if you zoom in this same chart, and if you go back to the previous short-term consolidations, you will notice a similar failed breakdown from a very short-term top, the one you have in the left. Every consolidation failed to complete to the downside and ripped higher. So it's interesting to see this same pattern developing in Bitcoin in other areas too. I think
Yeah.
this has been the big theme this year and in the past few weeks and months. And let's see if it finally breaks out to new all-time highs. That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah. You and a lot of others, I think. I certainly am too.
That's for
But
sure.
do we have any more requests, or should we leave it here for today?
Let's leave it here for today. It was very fun, um, very good for me to be here in this show. I hope
Like
to
I said,
be.
it's nice because you don't have to prepare for it, right, Alfonso?
Yeah, and this is what we do without the cameras and everything. This is what we do like every single day.
Exactly.
Um,
Now,
so it's good
Alfonso,
to be in the show.
we usually, Steve and I have been doing this thing lately where we pick our favorite chart or the chart that kind of stood out to us the most throughout the episode. So I'll go first. I think mine is probably VERX. I think that was, we'll look at that one again here.
Oh,
That's
from the show?
yeah, I'm gonna have to go with this.
No,
I'm sorry if I stole it.
you picked the best one.
Yeah, I did.
I really like that one. I really like that one,
You got
honestly.
another one, or I mean,
Um,
it's nothing crazy, but Amazon looks, I think, great too. I think
Amazon is looking good. Amazon is looking really, really good for sure.
good stuff. Well, Alfonso, thank you so much, and to our viewers, thank you guys so much. We love you guys. This is awesome, and be sure to join us again on Thursday, Steve will be back, and he'll be on the charts that time, or on Thursday. So be sure to join us then. But thank you guys so much. Take care.
Bye, guys.